Last week, Hunter Biden gave his deposition in a closed-door meeting with Congress. I've been reviewing the transcript, and it looks like Hunter Biden screwed up. I'm a certified public accountant, so I'm going to be explaining the Biden family corruption from an accounting perspective. What a lot of people don't realize is how much money is involved, which leads us to the question, did Joe Biden commit treason? I want to start by covering some of the obvious lies in Hunter Biden's testimony. Hunter Biden said, "My father never received any money or any benefit from any of the businesses that I've ever done." Really? That's a really strong statement. Joe Biden never received any money or any benefit? We have evidence that is a lie. We have 2 checks that were deposited into Joe Biden's bank account. Hunter Biden says those checks don't count because they were payments for loans. But for some reason, Hunter Biden cannot provide any loan documents. Then Hunter Biden said, "I did not involve my father in my business." Really? Hunter did not involve his father? We have evidence that is a lie. Here's a text message from Hunter Biden to a Chinese executive that reads, "I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment has not been fulfilled. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand. And now means tonight. And Z, if I get a call or text from anyone involved in this other than you, Zhang, or the chairman, I will make certain that between the man sitting next to me and every person he knows and my ability to forever hold a grudge that you will regret not following my direction. I am sitting here waiting for the call with my father." Now let's go back to Hunter Biden's statement from his deposition. "I did not involve my father in my business." It certainly sounds like he involved his father. Hunter was asked about this text message during the deposition, and his explanation was that he was a drug addict and cannot be held responsible for the things he did under the influence of drugs. Really? So let me see if I understand this. If someone commits a crime, can they simply say that they were on drugs, and that means they get away with it? I'm sorry, Hunter Biden, that's not the way the law works. Then there was the incident with the diamond. Hunter Biden received a 3.16 carat diamond from a Chinese executive. Estimates put this diamond at $80,000. Hunter Biden was asked about the diamond during the deposition. Hunter claims that he was actually the one giving the gifts. He claims that he gave the Chinese executive a bottle of scotch that was worth more than the diamond was worth. Of course, he has no proof of this. Then Hunter said he gave the diamond to his uncle, so he no longer has the diamond. Hunter's uncle, James Biden, explained in his deposition that when Hunter gave him the diamond, he thought it was worthless and he threw it in the trash. So no one has the diamond. I want you to look at this picture. Would you throw this diamond in the trash? Then there is the email that refers to Joe Biden as the big guy. It shows how profit was going to be distributed and says that Hunter Biden was going to hold 10% for the big guy. Hunter was asked about it during the deposition, and he confirmed that the email was referring to Joe Biden, but that he had never read the email and did not know about it. That's odd, since the email was in a chain of emails that Hunter Biden responded to. Then Hunter claims that the email doesn't matter because the final contract does not include any share for Joe Biden. Really? That was the whole point of the email, that Joe Biden was not going to be in the contract, but that his share would be secretly held by Hunter Biden. This is relevant because remember that check from before that went directly into Joe Biden's bank account? That was exactly 10% of a payment received from China. The main issue is whether a bribe is still a bribe if it was given to a family member instead of directly to the government official. For example, Would it be legal for Joe Biden to tell China that they could send him bribery payments as long as they sent the money to Hunter Biden's bank account? The U.S. law is very clear that this is still a crime. A bribe paid to a family member is the same as if the money were paid to the government official directly. So the questions in the deposition are centered around the question of whether Joe Biden was involved in Hunter Biden's business dealings. Hunter Biden says he was not involved, but there is evidence to suggest that he was involved. There's also a pattern of this happening again and again and again in Romania, Ukraine, and China, all places where Joe Biden happens to be heavily involved in setting foreign policy. Isn't it curious that Hunter Biden's business dealings always happen to be in foreign countries that his father just happens to be working with? There are four main charges being considered in this impeachment inquiry: bribery, obstruction, conspiracy, and abuse of power. There is evidence that all four crimes were committed by Joe Biden. But even if you take the most extreme interpretation of the evidence and say that Joe Biden was not involved and had no idea what his son was doing, you still have to ask the question, why is Hunter Biden not in prison? That fact alone is evidence of obstruction of justice. Why is he not in prison for tax fraud? Why is he not in prison for weapons violations? Why is he not in prison for drugs and prostitution? Why is he not in prison for acting as a foreign agent? Clearly, there is some form of obstruction of justice going on by Joe Biden. Otherwise, his son would be in jail. Obstruction of justice is a crime and a reason for impeachment. You can't use the presidency to stop a criminal investigation into your family members. So even in the most forgiving interpretation of the evidence, there is enough to impeach Joe Biden. Now, treason is a crime that's not being considered in this impeachment inquiry, but I think it should be added, and I'm going to explain why. Treason would include receiving a bribe from a foreign adversary. China meets this definition. I want to go back to a company Hunter Biden was involved with called BHR Partners. Hunter Biden became friends with a Chinese executive named Jonathan Lee while Joe Biden was vice president. Hunter Biden and Jonathan Lee came up with the idea of forming BHR Partners as an investment firm. In December 2013, Hunter and Joe Biden traveled together on Air Force Two to China, where they both met with Jonathan Lee. BHR Partners was registered 2 weeks later. Now, Hunter Biden claims that the meeting with Jonathan Lee was just as friends and had nothing to do with business. But the timeline is important here. Hunter Biden admitted in his deposition that he was working with Jonathan Lee before the December 2013 trip. He said, "I was working with Jonathan on a potential that he had an idea for creating a private equity fund based in China to do cross-border investments." So you're telling me that Hunter Biden was working with this guy to set up a business. He then flies to China and does not discuss any business, and then 2 weeks later, the business is created. I find that extremely hard to believe. I also find it hard to believe that on the plane flight from the United States to China, that Hunter did not mention any of this to his father. Do you know how long those plane flights are? And this never came up? Another thing people don't understand is what BHR stands for. B stands for Bohai. This is Jonathan Lee's company. H stands for Harvest Fund Management. Harvest Fund Management is a $300 billion Chinese financial services firm that is closely tied to the Chinese Communist Party. The director of Harvest is Henry Zhao. The R stands for Rosemont Seneca Thornton, Hunter Biden's company. So BHR was essentially a shell company for the Chinese Communist Party. By creating a separate entity, they could claim that Hunter was investing in a private company, but it was really just a front for the Chinese Communist Party. This puts in question another statement made in the deposition by Hunter Biden, where he said, I've never received money from a foreign government. Really? Because it looks like BHR Partners was getting money from the Chinese Communist Party. What's also interesting, do you remember the text message? Hunter sent this to Henry Zhao, the director of Harvest Fund Management. He's telling the Chinese Communist Party that they better send him money. Now, Hunter claimed in his testimony that this was a mistake and that he meant this text to go to somebody else. Really? Or is he lying to cover up the fact that he was using his dad to extort money from the Chinese Communist Party? Let's get to the money. BHR Partners was set up with Hunter Biden receiving a 10% equity stake in the company. The company had raised $4.2 million, and so Hunter Biden put in $420,000 in January 2014, 1 month after the trip with his father to China, and while his father was still vice president. Hunter Biden still held this equity in BHR Partners when Joe Biden became president in January 2021. Hunter Biden promised to get rid of his equity stake to avoid any conflict of interest. Then we meet Hunter Biden's lawyer, Kevin Morris. Kevin Morris also has given a deposition in front of Congress, and he testified that Hunter Biden sold the equity stake in BHR to him in 2021. Kevin Morris paid Hunter Biden $157,000 in cash and assumed another $250,000 in loans for a total of $407,000. So let's review what happened. Hunter originally invested $420,000 in 2014, and in 2021, 7 years later, he sold his stake in the company for $407,000. Does it seem right to you that this company decreased in value? Let's go to the legal document that transferred ownership of the equity from Hunter Biden to Kevin Morris. Just to be clear, this is a leaked document that was given to reporters. This is an unsigned version of the final contract. However, this document matches the testimony given by Hunter Biden and Kevin Morris. If we look at section 5.2 of the contract, it lays out the registered capital of the company. You can see Scaniatalis, which is Hunter Biden's company, has 10% of the company. You can see that Scaniatalis is one of 5 partners. Now, a lot of people get confused because it gives a value of 3 million renminbi. This is not how much the equity is worth. This is registered capital. The Chinese yuan, or renminbi, currently trades at around 14 cents US dollars to 1 Chinese yuan. That would mean that 3 million renminbi is $417,000, or roughly what Hunter Biden paid for the company in 2014. This is the registered capital of how much the company was worth when it was formed. It is not how much the company is worth today. If Kevin Morris sold this equity today, it would be sold at fair market value. So the real question is, how much is BHR worth today? What do we know about this company? This is not a fake company. It's an actual functioning investment company making investment deals. If you go on the company website or search the news, you can see the deals they've been involved with. In 2015, they bought a U.S. car parts company called Henniges Automotive for $600 million. In April 2017, BHR Partners bought a 24% stake in a Congolese mine for $1.14 billion. In 2017, the BHR website claimed it had $1.69 billion of assets under management. In May 2018, BHR raised $11.2 million to restructure a Chinese cheesemaker. So this is an active company that's doing a lot of business. Now again, we don't have the bank statements, so we don't know exactly how much the company is worth today. But if they had $1.69 billion in assets under management, I find it highly unlikely that the company is still only worth $4.2 million the amount it had in 2014. Now, just because they manage $1.69 billion doesn't mean that they own that money. They're just managing it for other people. But they're still going to need to invest some capital in each deal they make. It's unreasonable to think that an investment company can manage a $1.69 billion portfolio with only $4.2 million. What's more likely is that they've had other cash investments into the company over the last 10 years by the other partners, most likely from the Chinese Communist Party. Remember that this is a shell company, so the Chinese Communist Party could dump money into it and then appear to do deals as a private business. The first thing is this looks like yet another case of tax fraud by Hunter Biden, and a really blatant one. Since Kevin Morris testified that he purchased the company in 2021, this sale between Hunter Biden and Kevin Morris should have been reported on both of their 2021 tax returns. The IRS requires that a sale be reported at fair market value, not registered capital. And it would be really easy to determine fair market value. Just look at the value of the investments that BHR is holding. If Hunter Biden's BHR equity is worth more than the $407,000 that Kevin Morris paid for it, then Hunter Biden is required to report the difference as capital gains. Kevin Morris also needs to report the difference in fair value as a gift. That gift needs to be reported as income on Kevin Morris's taxes in 2021. Now, we don't have those tax documents yet, but I'm betting that it was not included. The reason why we can assume BHR Partners is worth a lot more money is Kevin Morris gave over $6.5 million in loans to Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has no job, no source of income. How is Hunter Biden going to pay back these loans unless BHR is worth more money than $407,000? I think the $6.5 million loan is an indication that BHR Partners is in fact worth an enormous amount of money, more than most people realize. But there's something even more disturbing about this transaction. Why would Hunter Biden's ownership equity remain the same? We're sitting here today, 10 years later after the company was formed, and his share is still 10% of the company. That doesn't seem right. It's normal for any active investment company for equity percentages to change. Each year, partners will put in money and take out money. And each time that happens, every partner's ownership percentage will change. Now, Hunter Biden claims that he has never taken any distributions. Hunter Biden's lawyer has said in a previous statement that Hunter has not received any compensation for being on BHR's board of directors. He has not received any return on his investment. There have been no distributions to BHR shareholders since Hunter obtained his equity interest. If that is true, and other equity holders have put in more money into the company, then Hunter's percentage should be less. Imagine there's a big pile of money, and the communists own a percentage, and Hunter Biden owns a percentage. If the communists were to add money to the pile, their percentage would go up, and Hunter's percentage would go down. The same thing should have happened at BHR. After 10 years of operations, with Hunter Biden doing nothing, I would have expected his share to have shrunk to be something like 0.5%, not 10%. But it hasn't shrunk. It's still at the 10%. That's very strange. Speaking as an accountant, it's extremely unusual for a business partnership of 5 different people to operate a business together for 10 years and have no change in their equity percentages. In fact, we know for certain there was additional investment because Hunter Biden's business partner, Devin Archer, testified in his deposition that he was involved in 2 additional capital calls after the initial investment. If that's true, why is Hunter Biden's equity still at 10% and he's selling the company for only $407,000? Let me explain what is likely happening here. One of the partners in BHR is Harvest Fund Management, which is essentially the Chinese Communist Party. All the Chinese Communist Party has to do is invest more money into BHR, keep Hunter Biden's equity percentage at 10%, and it's the same thing as the Biden family receiving a direct payment from the Chinese Communist Party. It's like the Bidens are receiving payments into a secret Chinese bank account. Let me be clear about this. This contract with Kevin Morris is from last year in 2023. If the Chinese Communist Party invested any money in BHR over the last 10 years, and Hunter Biden's percentage on this contract remained at 10%, that is evidence in black and white of a direct payment to the Biden family from the Chinese Communist Party. And it happened last year while Joe Biden was president of the United States. The payment goes directly from the Chinese Communist Party through the Biden's lawyer to the Biden family. This document is direct evidence of bribery and treason. What this looks like to me is a fraud that I call the switcheroo. What could be happening is that Hunter Biden sold the company to Kevin Morris for a small amount. In return, Kevin Morris gave Hunter Biden over $6.5 million in loans. After Joe Biden leaves office, they switch the company back. Kevin Morris liquidates the equity at fair market value, takes his cut to repay the $6.5 million in loans, and gives the rest back to Hunter Biden. Hunter will claim that since his father is no longer in office, that there is no problem. But there is a problem, because the bribe happened when the contract was created in 2023. Whether or not the cash was dispersed later, the bribe occurred when Hunter was given his 10% in 2023. The only way this is not a crime is if there were no changes in equity at all from any of the 5 investors over the last 10 years, which is unbelievable considering they are managing $1.69 billion in assets. To state again for the record, we don't yet have all the documents to prove all of these allegations, but Congress has the power to subpoena the documents from Kevin Morris. He has the documents. I'm just telling you where to look. We need Hunter Biden and Kevin Morris's 2021 tax returns, the bank records showing the investments of BHR in 2021, final legal documents for the BHR equity transfer, and bank records showing the history of all BHR equity positions. I believe when Congress gathers these documents, they will confirm what I am saying, because it's the most likely explanation of what people have said under oath in their depositions. Now, we have to be fair. There is still a possibility that Joe Biden is innocent. It's a small possibility, but it is a possibility. All I'm saying is that Congress should gather these documents and let's see what they have to say. The documents will show how much money Communist China has deposited into the Biden family's secret China bank account. In 2 weeks, on March 20th, Congress has called Hunter Biden to testify in a live deposition on television. I hope that they ask about this. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think that Joe Biden committed crimes and should be impeached? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below to make sure that you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you want to support the channel, consider signing up for a monthly membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, you help me to survive shadow banning and continue to produce these videos. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.